Hello and welcome to Media Lit, where we treat each piece of media like great literature. I'm your host, Randy Elaine, and joining me as always is the one, the only, Kris Ingersoll. Kris, how you doing tonight?
So good, Randy. Tonight we've got a special guest who's like really near and dear to my heart, who assigned us a really special homework. The gentleman in question is somebody I consider a brother, both in the way that I care for him and in the amount of time, the depth of our relationship, the amount of time that we spent together. We started off as colleagues. I have Owen Amsler joining us tonight, a gentleman who I had the pleasure of working with at my previous employer at Trunk Club. I was like a relatively new leader. This was my first time striking out on my own to kind of form a team and try to build something from scratch. And Owen is the very first person that I hired. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life on like multiple levels, man. Not only did we,
I'm gonna cry.
no, we had a good time together at work, right? We were professionally successful together, but there's almost no one besides my wife that I would rather stand next to for 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. We did that together for like 4 years, man. It was wonderful. This is one of the most talented and intelligent men that I have the pleasure of convening with. And tonight he's assigned a movie that was part of that early bonding experience. Yeah, so Owen Amsler is joining us tonight to discuss the film Saving Silverman from way back in 2001. Some big names in it, probably a film you remember coming through even if you didn't see it. Plenty of names that were famous then that have gone on to continue to be successful. So I'm really excited to talk about it tonight. This is like Media Lit bread and butter. I think that this movie on its surface may be seen as, in a modern day, questionable for one reason or another, but I'm really excited to talk story tonight. Randy, this was your first time seeing Saving Silverman, is that right?
I'm fairly certain I saw it back in the day at one point or another, but I had kind of merged this film with the movie Loser, starring Jason Biggs. And I couldn't have told you the plot of either movie. But it was also, at the same time, it was one of those where, like, as it's happening on screen, those little memories are unlocking. And I'm like, yeah, I saw this. Or I remember this gag, that gag, or the other gag.
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, this was on Comedy Central every weekend.
Yeah, seeing it with those fresh eyes, it's always a great experience. And I have a few more thoughts on that for later, but
of course, yeah.
For now, I want to stick to the intros because I'm kind of excited for Chris's next question.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I know that you were charmed. We were chatting while you were watching, and you were charmed by the Neil Diamond of it all. So that's where I want to start tonight, is with a little bit of fun here. Our three main buddies in the film, Darren, Wayne, and JD, lifelong best friends, they are a part of a cover band, a Neil Diamond cover band, nonetheless. And so I thought it'd be fun tonight to talk about our own imagined cover bands. I'm not ready to tell you who it would be with, but I wrestled with this question, and I think I've got it. Let's start with you, bud. Let's get your voice on the pod.
Oh my God. So, I think I interpreted this assignment in my own unique way.
Oh, good podcasters do.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought about it for me, and what I also wrestled with it because I was like, do I do a rapper where I already know all the lyrics? It'd just be easy. What I settled on was I thought it was fitting for the movie, Tenacious D. I saw them live once, and I've loved them for a long time. I don't really listen to rock and roll really at all unless it's parody music. And I have a special love for Jack Black. That part of it is probably this movie. But so, yes, I've seen them live, and they wear comfortable clothes. They're just dads with beards, and they are rocking so hard, and they're like sweating and screaming and singing their hearts out. And the lyrics are always silly, but they're also very poignant. And so that would just be so, I would love to channel that energy. It seems like they're getting so much out when they're joking around. They're having a good time still. So it's like that to me would be a great night to just do a set list of Tenacious
The
D
whole crowd
songs.
loves you. Everybody's laughing and having a great time. Folks
Mhm.
know the words. They can sing along with you. To your point, it's a great catalog. I mean, Tenacious D is a blast. Confession, I think, as the father of a 5-year-old,
Mhm.
I have introduced Tribute to my daughter. She's at least heard Tribute.
I just listened to that in the shower, and I just listened to a medley of their songs. A lot from Pick a Destiny, which was this late
Yeah.
apocalypse
Yeah.
style album for I think 2018. Oh my god, some of the songs on there, it's like I feel like people should be stopping each other in the streets and saying, "Have you listened to that? Because it's important." Like, but whatever. It's important to me. That's enough.
It was a film that went with that album. Is that correct? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The show was basically like a live action. There was some spaceships and
Mhm.
aliens and smoke and steel bird cages, human size. It was all like, yeah. So there was a whole, I think it was a cartoon, and there was also a live performance of the whole thing.
No, this was a
Amazing.
perfect way to kick it off because you can't separate Jack Black from the music. Like when I think of my history with Jack Black, I go first to the world of music videos. I believe he's in the Foo Fighters, Learn to Fly music video. My
Mhm.
favorite musician of all time is Beck Hansen, and Jack Black is featured in the Sex Laws music video.
Wow.
My favorite early 2000s Jack Black is from High Fidelity.
Mm.
And of course, School of
Mhm.
Rock is always a classic.
School of Rock. Me and Chris have talked
Great
about that
movie.
at length. That is a very notable
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's done so well.
Give me some Joan Cusack too. Joan
So-
Cusack.
Yeah.
For a film for the whole family.
Yeah.
Come on, like he's unique. Like the fact that I don't know. So yeah, it's hard to separate the two. Music is
That's
him.
right,
And he's
yeah.
music.
Dude's got a killer voice. I do have a follow-up question though, for Owen. What's the name of your tribute band?
Really, yeah. I didn't really think that much. I thought just Tenacious E, just the
Mhm.
next one.
Yeah.
That was really all I could think
This
of.
one might, yeah.
Because it took a lot to come up with Tenacious D, and I kind of was hit a wall
Yeah,
there.
it could simply be the greatest band in the world. Tribute.
Right, exactly.
Wow. I think we just solved it here. We can end the pod
Yeah.
now. I think we're done. We're done for the night.
Yeah, this was a quick.
Well, Randy, obviously you've given this some thought. What is your cover band like? Talk to me.
Yeah, listen, I love music. But my vibe, my persona, I don't scream stage presence necessarily, at least if I'm imagining, rocking out on stage musically. I've not proven to be the most talented musician. But I actually have daydreamed quite a bit about which band I would cover if I ever got those musical chops going. And you could argue I went in a similar direction to Owen because I also turned toward novelty music.
Mhm.
And I took my mind on a trip to New Zealand.
Stop.
I would have a flight of
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
Concords cover band. We're called Business Time in honor of one of the top
Wow.
Concords tracks. Now this is not my favorite Concord song, but something I've always wished I could play and do as a bit with one of my friends is the song Jenny. This never made the HBO show. Have either of you heard this song?
Of course, I'm a super fan of them as well.
Yeah, it's not really a sing-songy thing, but it's a bit. You've got some soft music in the background. Two former lovers run into one another in the park or whatever, only to slowly discover that this is a case of mistaken identity with increasingly hilarious stakes. This is a hilarious misunderstanding. It is the keyword, but yeah, Concord's cover band, that would be my vibe. And we can do a trio because my cover band is going to include parts for Murray from the TV series. Yeah, we're going to get the Reese Darby part in there, get him in there for like Leggy Blonde and whatnot. It's going to be a good time.
Leggy.
Blondie.
I mean, those dudes are. I don't know what it is about. Probably my favorite artists are Lonely Island, Weird
Mhm.
Al, Flight of the Conchords, Tenacious D. For some reason, when it's done well, that takes me there.
I'm so thrilled to be here with you both. This little connection you guys are building is making me very happy. And you named one of Randy's other favorite artists. I thought he was going to say that he would do, and I was going to mock him for covering a parody artist, Weird Al.
Yeah, I just watched Weird after I watched Saving Silverman. I finally watched Weird.
Wow.
Always at the ready.
For the listening audience at home, for all the podlings, Randy just like from his hip, I think he drew
materialized
a Weird Al Funko, a little bobblehead.
I used to have a Weird Al chia pet, so the afro grew out green. Like, gotcha.
Well, this has been a blasty blast of a start to the podcast. I guess for me, I feel less exciting than you both with your really awesome answers to this, but I had to kind of look at myself and my own skill set. Like, would I love to be a part of a Led Zeppelin cover band where myself and my amazingly talented friends can just rip through their whole catalog and impress people across, incredible body of music? Yeah, I wish. There's no world, not even in this hypothetical world, do I feel comfortable claiming such a legacy. So I knew it couldn't be Zeppelin. I think for me, it's ultimately it's a Johnny Cash cover band. Me and the Line Walkers will come in and just show you a good time. They're songs they're songs you can sing along with, and I can do a decent Johnny impression. Yeah, I can lay.
Oh, I can see you with the shades. All black.
Yeah, and I can lay down some Folsom Prison Blues if need be. Kennedy used to sing that when she was like 3. She knew that song.
Everybody hide your wives. All right, that's all I'll tell you.
So I was gonna stop slowing down the opening of the pod, Kris, but I've got to do a peek behind the curtain because as new podcasters, we've been developing this show. It's going to be a year before we know it, but we're learning as we go.
Wow.
Trying new things with the format, trying new things with our audio setup. And every once in a while, Kris and I will send each other some audio clips. We're trying to mess with maybe a microphone setting, see if we can keep moving in the direction we want to go. So Kris sends me some audio samples a couple weeks ago, and I'm ready to hear, that beautiful voice that Kris is known for. I fire up the recording, and I get a full Johnny Cash impersonation. A man named Sue, boy named Sue, rather.
Yeah, I did a dramatic reading of A Boy Named Sue.
Yeah, it made my day. It was one of the best things.
Oh, like you could have just done anything and you didn't do that.
But what a delight. It really truly made my day. And it was good.
You mean Chris's lust for life? Yeah. It's like the way he's ever the optimist and finding the positive in everything. Like, yeah, it's pretty good. He's a very loving human being, comes through even in the audio notes somehow.
Happy to be able to make you guys smile. I'll tell you that. Well, this has been quite the dance into the beginning of the podcast. It's time to get down to business. It's time for Randy to do something special here, Owen. Every time we cover a film, a television show, Randy does his best to summarize it, to give us a synopsis. And so I think especially because we have such a history with this film, and he less so, I'm really excited to hear this movie through your eyes, Randy.
Wayne, JD, and Darren Silverman, that is, have been best friends since childhood. They are all outsiders who find purpose, value, and love in their friendship. The hopeful spirit of this found family is embodied by their shared obsession with Neil Diamond and projected out into the world via their cover band, Diamonds in the Rough. What a name. Love it. When Darren, the romantic of the group, stumbles into a quickly escalating relationship with successful, high-powered psychologist Judith, he isn't assertive enough to keep up with her or look out for his own needs. When Judith proposes to Darren and demands that he abandon his friends, Wayne and JD take action with an airtight and flawless plan. Kidnap Judith, convince Darren that the wedding is off, then reunite him with old high school crush Sandy, the one that got away. They seem like they could make a cute couple, but there's another problem. Sandy is about to take her final vows as a nun and take an oath of chastity. Wayne and JD prove to be inept criminals. Judith psychoanalyzes JD into accepting that he is gay and uses psychosexual manipulation to gain Wayne's trust. Or does she? It's also possible that they made a true love connection over some Arby's takeout. They also make the mistake of involving Coach, their unhinged and violent high school football coach. It's a bit of a mess. Nevertheless, they keep Judith distracted long enough for Darren and Sandy to fall for each other. Just when it looks like we'll get a happy ending for the doe-eyed couple, Judith escapes and reclaims her fiancé. Darren stops listening to his heart and decides to stand by his pledge to Judith. Wayne and JD go to prison for their crimes, but that won't stop them from saving Silverman. Coach breaks them out just in time to pull Sandy from the convent, kidnap Neil Diamond, and break up the wedding. Thanks to Neil's passion and poetry, Darren is able to accept his true feelings and follow his heart. He leaves Judith at the altar and lets Sandy sweep him off his feet. In the ensuing chaos, Wayne and Judith confirm their mutual attraction in the form of an all-out chair-smashing brawl. Coach and JD arrive on the scene in time for Coach to reveal that he is also gay. It's love at first sight. Cut to a triple wedding and celebratory stage performance alongside Neil Diamond for the entire cast.
I think you captured the spirit of the film quite well, buddy. There's one thing you didn't manage to squeeze in there amidst all the absurdity. It's not important, maybe, but I always found it notable that Sandy comes from a circus family. Her brother's the dog-faced boy. Her mother, the bearded lady. Didn't need to be in your synopsis, but it felt like it had to be in the podcast at some point. So here we are.
I agree. Sandy Perkins Circus, and some of the choices that they made to make everything so complicated with her unnecessarily. Yeah, that is part of it.
I'm really sorry for leaving out the circus background. Rest in peace, Johnny Cannoli, or what was his name?
Oh, it was maybe Peter Cannoli.
No. Or, it was.
Oh, Peter Panini.
Panini, yes.
Peter Panini. I think I got it in there.
It's Luigi Panini. It's even worse.
There we go. I knew
Panini.
It was funnier than that. Yeah. Rest in peace, Luigi Panini. You left this world far too soon.
The stakes are she can never love again, also because she had
tragically die
who was too
vain,
and now she has to become a nun. Like they made that so complicated. But they needed a reason for her to not be able to be with Darren yet either. But it seems like they just sat around and were like, yeah, so Luigi Panini and hair gel. Like that was one of the parts where you're like, okay.
It feels
they could have simplified it a little bit. But the absurdity.
No, this is such a trope of the era, because one of my favorite farcical movies from this time period is Superstar. Mary Catherine Gallagher,
yes.
and I think it's like her grandmother's tragic backstory is like her daughter was killed in like a clogging dance contest or something ridiculous like that. So that was very much on my mind during the Panini sequence.
Yeah, kind of the dumb death, backstory is pretty good. I think of like Hot Rod.
Sure,
it's always that, like some accident that causes some trauma. So yeah, that is a bit of a trope that I enjoy in these kind of movies where it's just you're accepting there's a level of
but it is intentional, and we'll get into the personal connections after this, but it is intentional because it's not just that he's absurd and he's Luigi Panini and that he dies in some absurd contrived way. They also comment that his vanity is what was his downfall. In true Shakespearean fashion, this farce wants to explore human nature, and it wants to explore the little things that make us absurd.
You don't even have to write down, his vanity. They literally say it because it doesn't really make sense, because how did he get to be he just became the best and didn't know how much gel to use to not be slippery, like, or he just became vain because he was so big. But they specifically give you that information.
Before we get into more of the specifics of the film itself, before we do our episode as literature, I do want to talk about like your history of this movie. So what is like your earliest memory of this film, or an important memory you have connected to Saving Silverman?
Well, I would say that this movie to me is kind of an amalgam of time and memories because we watched this a lot. But I would say in general, it kind of reminds me of going to Blockbuster, and after that, movie work and a bunch of snacks. Having all the boys. I used to have all the boys sleep over every Friday. Nick, and I won't say their full names, but Nick and Dee and John, everybody, Paul, and we would talk about how those were the crazy days. We'd order pizza, like that was big to us, and movie night was everything. And like this movie wasn't just the movie nights, like we were talking about before, it was always on Comedy Central. So this was like, I just saw it a lot. It seeped in. So I feel like this was, formative in that way, and the stuff that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So definitely deep in there. I don't really have one specific.
Very, very similar for me. This is like in the DVD golden age, right? DVDs were exploding. We certainly had the DVD, and we had sleepovers galore. This was like perfect. We are teenage boys. We're eating junk food. We are smelly. The simplest humors tickle our fancy. This was an easy one to have in rotation. But I also have this like amalgam of time in my life and people I've shared it with. So it's like those high school friends, yes. But then right after high school, I had some good buddies who revisited this movie, Blake and his brother Ken, and it became language for us, this film, because we watched it so often together. And then later we would go on to talk about it as late as the year 2016. We spent a lot of time still talking about this movie.
I mean, I think I officially won you over. Not that I wasn't gonna eventually, but with this movie, like I'm picking up a bunch of hangers stuck together. This is probably our second day of work. And I go, hey, if you get the nacho stuck together, that's one nacho. And you like almost didn't even laugh. You were just so happy. You like paused, like, oh my God. Like, I love that you just said that. I quote this movie too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you were just saying you got a Weird Al bobblehead. Well, I love you.
Yeah,
you know
it was that moment.
It was that kind of, it was like a moment where it was just, and we know we kind of enjoy the same humor.
It was good.
So
it was good.
I agree totally with Kris. This movie was language. There was so many of these things where I'm stopping and saying, we said this a million times. Like, we did not stop saying that. So yeah, it was a joy to go back and watch it and remember all that. And also now with more life experience looking at it and like through the lens of like, let's take this seriously. I had a blast doing it.
What about you, Randy? Any early memories for you?
I can't remember when I watched Saving Silverman, apart from I'm pretty sure I watched it. However, what you're all saying is really resonating with me, right? Because that era, joke all you want about blockbusters and technology changing. But if watching the movie involved going to Blockbuster, it wasn't just watching a movie. It was a ritual. It was a bonding experience. And listen, I happened to have a much higher percentage of female friends than male friends when I was in high school. So we weren't watching as much Saving Silverman. It was like a little more Moulin Rouge.
Great.
However, if I could judge up any of those friends right now, they would also tell you that I made them watch a lot of movies that I love. The number one in that rotation is Clifford, starring Martin Short and Charles Grodin. A future episode of this podcast, no doubt. But yeah, that type of bonding experience you speak of, I know it very well. I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit in the outline, Owen, because you actually like fully covered my next question. And you've kind of started to answer the one I am going to ask you, right? This was shorthand language for you and Kris and so many other friends. But I was just curious, are there any additional ways that this film has influenced your interests or your values or your style out in the world?
I think specifically, I saw this question and I did like think a lot about this, and I think that this movie kind of snuck in the back door with me. Like I was seduced just by these guys are funny. They're so funny, and I'm rooting for them. And now I look at it and I try to have I find myself with like more empathy for these characters and wondering more about them. And I think it speaks to sort of stuff that I'm going through in my own life, trying to grow and like look inward. I love how there's the lens of the psychoanalysis in the movie. So I think it does influence me in the sense that this movie is a reminder that exploring your feelings is important, that sometimes when people are joking, they're actually masking their trauma. And there's a lot of examples of that in this movie. So I think I've had some personal experience with that. Like people, they're joking, but they're not really joking. And so like watching this with this lived experience was a lot of fun for me, because I was sort of thinking, oh, this movie, was so fun, and it helped us. Like we got so many laughs out of it, but I think it also was foundational in being more empathetic for people. So I think it does still influence me.
Love that. I think it's very similar for me. You know, I don't like dress like the guys from this movie by any means. I didn't watch this movie and decide to start to build my own persona around anything that I saw there, right? But the quotes are just inescapable in my life. Beer bong for the lady. If you get the nacho stuck together, that's one nacho. Girls, never very high at 9. Look now. 2. There are things that I see in the world, and I can't not say this, at least inwardly, to myself. Like if somebody says the number 2 with just a certain amount of emphasis, that this quote is running in my head. And I think that's why, Owen, in that moment when you said nacho stuck together, that's one nacho, I was probably doing it already in my head and having this lonely little moment because my buddies Blake and Ken aren't around. And then you said the thing, and it wasn't just shorthand, therefore, then for past relationships. It became shorthand for how I made new relationships and how I was able to build these really quick bridges. We would spend 4 years solidifying the foundations of that bridge. But a moment like this was really like an early connector for us. And that means the world to me, to connect to people that way. More seriously, in watching this film now, I realized that I had like walked out some of the Darren struggles in my life. And so while it didn't necessarily influence my style specifically, it wasn't until watching now that I realized, looking back, how much some of my own choices, my own sense of obligation, especially in one specific relationship, led to some really unhealthy choices and like a toxic version of myself. And so this rewatch revealed to me even further connections that I hadn't previously appreciated. And then back to comically, I did go to SU. And it was after seeing this movie that I got my job at Subway. And you better believe that I was doing my very best JD impression the entire time. I did graduate from Subway University. That's the only university I graduated from. And so I'm a lot like JD, Ivy League, more or less.
Kris, inquiring minds want to know, did you build the party sub?
I have built a party sub. It's like a final exam. It's an epic moment. Working at Subway is...
Oh, you told me some about your Subway times.
Yeah.
I remember.
I used to sling sandwiches with the best of them. Randy, I think we can assume this film did not have an influence on your own interests, values, or style. But is there anything that you saw when watching it now at this late stage in life that like you saw some identity in?
Yeah, I think this is going to come out through some of like the deeper parts of our conversation. But I think a movie like this, it both maybe, pushed like a young gentleman of a certain time period to maybe consider some points of view, in things that maybe they were totally blind to. But at the same time, I think this movie and a lot of other movies, I do think that they also maybe silently reinforce some toxic behaviors.
Certainly.
So I think looking at like the give and take of that was really interesting to me, and looking back at a film from this time period with this sort of vibe to see the pros and the cons of what that maybe did to me on a subconscious level is interesting. I certainly wasn't emulating the exact behaviors in here. But yeah, there is a certain toxicity to the attitudes toward the relationships here that's worth unpacking and worth, I think, using as a sounding board. Right. Like Kris, you mentioned seeing some of these tendencies in yourself at times. And I think I can say the same thing. The like codependency, et cetera. Sort of low lying, like these little indicators of a sense of like ownership in a relationship that can be unhealthy. It can certainly go both ways. Are things that are really interesting and important to explore.
Totally agree. Like, it's interesting. I say I'm rooting for these guys, and then they kidnap a woman and hold her at gunpoint and are gonna kill her. Like, their behavior is totally unacceptable. And like, thankfully, I knew not to emulate it, as you said. But yeah, their behavior is ridiculous. It's not something to. It's I hear you. There's like there's something to grapple with there.
It's like almost it's the kind of movie you have to discuss to make sure that everybody who has watched it has taken away the right lessons and the right understanding.
You're not going to go kidnap a girl.
Like there's actually no amount of comedic shtick or good intentions that can justify kidnapping a woman. Actually,
right. No matter how funny Steve Zahn is,
I'm very happy we can all agree on that one. So this is the moment in an episode of Media Lit where we take the homework assignment and we do a deep dive. We look at this thing like a piece of great literature, whether or not it is generally regarded as one. And as we've just been talking about, I think we all saw a lot of valuable psychological concepts to explore here. We also looked at just all the great bonding that can come through a film like this, the shared language and dialogue. And I truly did enjoy watching this film, and I'm so excited that we're going to have this high level, really mature conversation about it, because there's so much here to love. But if we have any listeners who are checking this out, maybe you've never seen Saving Silverman before, I do think, especially to someone who maybe wasn't born yet when this film came out or was way too young to have seen it, I do think quite a few choices would be pretty shocking in the present without having the ability to have some context. So I want to do a little roundtable, and I'm calling this section Elephant in the Room, because there are a few things, at least for myself personally, I feel like worth acknowledging before I dive into the film, just so people know I'm not taking those things too lightly. For instance, normally I would turn the question to someone else first, but maybe I'll kick this one off just as a little bit of a tone setter for what I'm thinking of here. So I've got 2 or 3 things on my list. And I think the first one is, as Kris established earlier, this is a farce. In many ways, we are certainly not meant to be thinking we should emulate the behaviors that we see on screen. And these fictional characters of JD and Wayne and Darren, I harbor no ill will toward them. But I see a few patterns in the writing of the film that raise a few questions for me. And this actually goes back to my time studying journalism at UMass Amherst. So I'm going to frame this in terms of something that happened in my favorite journalism class that I took in college. It was called Objectivity and Power. And I would say to kind of sum up what the course was about, it was basically asking up and coming journalists to explore the notion that there's maybe no such thing as completely unbiased reporting. And you really have to be able to look carefully at the word choices people are using, the people they're choosing to give space in the paper for quotes and things like that. And we did this one project at one point in the class where we were going through papers, some digital. I am just old enough that I actually was going through a stack of like physical newspapers at one point to do this project. Old man here. But we were specifically looking at the descriptions of women in news stories, and kind of cataloging how often these were descriptions based on what a woman was wearing, what a woman was doing, what sorts of judgments about a woman's character or assumptions were being made, kind of slipping in versus male counterparts. And it was pretty astounding to me. And there's this sort of trope in the media, and even if you didn't take a journalism course, you're probably somewhat familiar with this. There is this notion that women are often presented either as some sort of a vixen or some sort of an angel in the media. And I'm sorry for this really big wind up, but I had the big wind up because I felt like this movie almost embodied that in a perfect way. You know, at one point, our other Tenacious D bandmate who makes a cameo refers to Judith as Satan with incredible tits. Later on the flip side, yeah, I was tying them together because later on, Sandy is a quote unquote sweet girl, an angel. She is Mother Teresa. And again, we get the with incredible tits line. You know, her her costume was very much a spirit Halloween nun costume, you know, more so than anything else. And while I do think the movie was partly sending this up, I don't know that I believe every 12-year-old boy watching this movie walked away with the right attitudes about women and how to categorize female behavior. And the way they discuss sex in this movie is something that women are like withholding or hiding in some kind of a contemptuous way. That's the thing that was my biggest thing I wanted to do a wind up to acknowledge. Because I think if you're coming at this from the right frame of mind, you can use that as a learning experience. You can see the flaw. But it's also possible to put that on display and have people learn the wrong lessons, and hopefully not in the extreme ways as the characters on screen, but maybe in more subtle ways that we had to reconcile with. I think I could even recognize some subtle ways I've reconciled with some of that messaging I saw as a younger person. So my other ones are way shorter than that, but that was my big spiel here on that one.
I think I can kind of immediately validate that, right? But I also want to kind of push on it a little bit and really find the sweet spot within it, because you're right. Point blank, you're right. The movie, though, I think is doing it on purpose because it is so textual. The first time we see Judith, she's in red. She's called Satan. She's then called Vader. She's called the Emperor. It's very intentional. So this
internationally, the film is called Evil Woman.
There you go. Judith given, Sandy given the opposite. First time we see her, she's in light colors. She's very fair. All these very traditional visual indicators of the good character, right? But so much so that it's clearly very intentional. And I would argue that there are similar two-dimensional displays of the male characters. We have some male archetypes on display as well. Like you've got Wayne as your very stereotypical, I'm a man's man, I do push-ups, I wear camo, I know how to use things like tranquil darts. And then you got Darren, who's the sensitive boy, right? The issue I find with that is a lack of female perspective. So you have both groups of characters are being painted with broad strokes. Like we're being farcical, we're being absurd, we're picking at the flaws of humanity. We're exaggerating them for the sake of study. The problem is the imbalanced perspective, in my opinion. And that's where I think this does have a danger, because it never, ever gives you a female's way of looking at these flaws. We don't really know how Judith feels about Sandy or how Sandy feels about Judith. Like we don't care what the women in this movie really think beyond how the men are interpreting how these women think and feel. And that's where it really breaks down for me. All the other stuff, I would argue, you could just like on a face reading of some Shakespeare say, this is only problematic. Nobody should learn from this. People should not read this. They should not be given examples of humanity from this. Right? But that's not what he was doing as a creator. That's not really the story he was telling. And I think we can give this that credit. It is not done with the same depth of skill, the beauty of language, or the real understanding of humanity that Shakespeare had, of course. And I think that's where, like I said, it really fails. There's no There are female characters, but there are no female perspectives in the movie.
Yeah, I definitely concur. I think there is actually some, I have with Darren, I find him fascinating, but I have more questions than answers.
Yeah.
I think Wayne, he is not really explored at all. He is an archetype, but there's not really a reason given why. But I think they do explore JD. I think there's masculinity explored and feelings explored a little bit there, and a lot of stuff there. But at no point are the women's emotions really explored, or as Kris said, their perspective. They exist as functions for the men, and really women are just seen as good or bad, and the men are given a little more than that, where there's context and there's reasons maybe for why they do what they do. The women are not given the same time or plot in that way. They really are good or bad, and either way they better have great tits or it doesn't matter. Like, I think I completely agree with both of you in the sense that it's so intentional that yes, it's a send up, but I do agree that a lot of little boys definitely miss that, and they just think women are good or bad, and that could have been a little destructive. I think I watched it enough to where I got it, but I think if you just see it once, you don't necessarily absorb all that. So yeah, I can definitely see both.
And then I would say the entirety of the way homosexuality is treated in this film it's just lacking any kind of nuance, depth, understanding. It's lacking any humanity. It's all played for a joke and a shtick. So while I don't think the movie trends towards actual homophobia per se by definition, right? Like, the movie doesn't actually ever judge characters negatively. Even like your hyper masculine Wayne doesn't ever really judge JD. He's like, oh, gross. Like, he's grossed out by the idea of participating, but he himself, like, he doesn't care. Nobody in the movie cares.
Fine with it.
So it falls well short of being at all representative of the LGBTQ plus community. It falls well short of any kind of ally points by any means. And I think most of that is just due to its ignorance more than any malice. I think that maybe it's the homosexuality in the film, the way it's treated, that for me puts it most squarely in its time of 2001. It wasn't treated as real, like something you could experience in the real world.
I thought it was interesting. At one point he says, like, we can't get married, I'm gay. And I go, oh, actually,
that has changed.
Like, enough time has passed. That's actually different now. So that's one thing you could point to, like, that would have concretely been different if they made it today, because
that moment's a great example of what I'm talking about, though, right? Because I'm not, I'm gay. Coach says, me too. And then, Randy, you were very kind in your synopsis to call it love at first sight.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're supposed to believe that's what is really happening there. I think, unfortunately, the messaging is like, oh, great, you're gay, I'm gay, we can just do this then. As if there's no need to connect as humans. There's no, like, depth of feeling, or that moment alone is a good example of the very superficial.
The one thing I would not push back, but the one thing that I would say about that is, when I agreed, I also wrote down that it's immature and played for laughs, but I thought that him coming out actually made perfect sense for his character. I think they were maybe joking, but they kind of like backed into a truth, like a broken clock is right twice a day. So he follows Wayne. He asks Wayne at one point if they can get dinner. Like, why doesn't he just get dinner? He's a grown man. He follows somebody else. He's not really choosing his own life. He's asked at one point, have you ever had a girlfriend? He goes, yes, no. And he shakes his head, no. Like, and it's hilarious. I've said that a million times, but seeing it now, I'm going, oh, what he's doing when he's saying that is he's saying, I'm like, of course I've never had a girlfriend. I'm not worthy. Like, I'm discussing. There's indications of very low self-esteem. And sometimes when you're holding something in, a big secret, maybe that you've been gay your whole life, sometimes that manifests in you don't want to take control of your own life. Maybe you want to follow somebody else. Maybe you want to eat and drink liquor to excess to stuff it down and not talk about it. So it's like, why isn't he taking agency of his own life? Why does he have such low self-esteem? And when he comes out, it's like, I know some guys that maybe need that moment. And go, there's actually something I really haven't been facing. I haven't put my finger on it. And so I think that, like, I'm also, when I watch this, I'm giving it every concession that they
of course.
Well. So, and I understand not everybody, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I would love to yes and you guys. I think you captured it exactly right. It's the ignorance of the time, right? You also get a couple terms thrown around as pejoratives. Like there's this use of the term lesbo. There's this term herm to stand in for hermaphrodite, and certainly the public discourse over transgender issues, which is not exactly the same thing. There's a lot more curiosity and openness and eagerness to learn and understand where people are coming from. But if I'm gonna say something kind about the movie. I do group this storyline a little bit in with like the Joey and Chandler of it all, because on the one hand there is this underlying sort of like gay fear joke, like anytime Joey and Chandler on Friends are a little bit too close, they'll have that sort of jumping away from one another moment.
Right.
A shame, but at the same time, in that time period, I also partly am tempted to applaud the relationship in the sense that, like, we're seeing men on screen be vulnerable with one another. And it's got a long way to go by today's standards, but it was kind of groundbreaking to see those two guys hug and be close and not be afraid to be vulnerable with one another and cry together. And I think this movie is going for a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of that in there of good intention.
Yeah, there are good things on display amongst these humans. There's things for each other they do. But I think any act of communication is subject to its time and place. A film is timeless in that, especially now, you can watch that thing from 100 years distant to when it was made, right? But it was made at a time, in a place, and it was intended to talk to a specific people. And it's really difficult, whether it's reading literature, reading wisdom literature, watching films, listening to music, to allow things the grace of their time and place in history and not just receive them as if somebody's speaking it to me today, to me in my time, in my place.
Right, to purposely offend you.
Right. Exactly right. So I think some of what helps this movie maybe is when you look at the cast and you look forward then where they would go from there and who they would be in the world. Not a lot to complain about amongst these folks. Jack Black is he America's sweetheart? Like maybe you've been overexposed and he annoys you, but he's a tremendously
well. He had that misstep lately. He canceled the tour for a little bit. He did, hiccup, and people don't like him in the Minecraft movie. He's getting a hit. His soft power is taking a hit because it's been here. Like he's beloved. He is
untouchable.
In a way,
he got Kung Fu Panda 5 or 4, whichever one they just did. But even the canceled tour was like trying to do a uniting, loving human thing.
I agree. Like that wasn't. You can't definitively say he's an A.
Yeah.
Like I agree. There's nuance to what happened.
But yeah, I mean, Steve Zahn, beloved performer as he goes on. Right. These are not you.
I would say
I don't think you look at anybody individual in the film contributing who you'd say is a problematic person in the world today.
I was just going to say quickly. Also, I feel like it's hard for comedies to hold up. Most comedies after time are not funny. Like for every Happy Gilmore, there's 1,000 bad comedy movies, and I still laughed at this. And I think that speaks to the performances more than anything. Jack Black and Steve Zahn and their chemistry and the scenes together,
for sure. And I appreciate both of you going down this avenue with me. I don't want to stick us here all night. I just had one more thought. Did either of you have any more for this roundtable? The last thing I wanted to shout out, it's much quicker than my last one. I do think there is one thing in this movie that I can only personally label as malicious, and that is this one inexplicable scene where Judith is trying to escape. She is in distress. She is running down the street, trying to escape, and we cut to this sequence with a man who does not appear again in the film. He is masturbating, and he sees Judith out the window. This man is of Asian descent, and he does this performance that feels like it's meant to be a caricature, where he is kind of strutting toward the staircase, and he's read this situation as this desperate woman means he's going to get lucky. And he kind of makes a little knowing like nod to himself, then trips and falls down the stairs and is knocked unconscious. And it felt to me like straight out of an 80s movie with like a weird caricature of an Asian stereotype that made me like wildly uncomfortable. And I was like, I really wish that wasn't there. And I couldn't see what it was there for other than a really poorly constructed laugh.
Yeah, it makes no sense in the story. It could easily be removed, and that whole sequence still works. Her escaping and making her way eventually to the West Precinct, the police department there. Yeah, it does make me wonder, like, what was left on the cutting room floor that maybe gave this more context, and why wasn't this also left on the cutting room floor? It's a great call.
I think they really liked those jokes in the 80s movies and they wanted it in there.
Well, and truly, as an ignorant young man watching this the first time, I found this sequence hilarious because he falls down the stairs and the first thing he says is, "Oh, scrotum," before he goes unconscious.
Yeah.
You know, like, as a kid, it's just silly and slapsticky and funny, and you don't appreciate how it would feel to be somebody else more closely connected to that character watching that. Right.
Yeah, and if you separate it from the larger context of what that might mean, you could read it as this person with selfish intentions, gets his comeuppance for, you know what I mean? Like that could be a read if you're separating it from some context that might not be readily available to you in the moment. But yeah, that was the only other one I wanted to shout out because I just want to have fun with this movie with you guys because I just wanted our listeners to know that we were thoughtful with our viewing, and I think they know that. And I'm really excited to get into it with you guys.
I just had a weird epiphany, and I won't keep us sidetracked for too long, but I have to do research now into the director of this film. You mentioned Happy Gilmore earlier. The director of this film also directed Happy Gilmore. I know that. The reason I know that is because this director is notorious for cameos in his films. Mm-hmm. And so the director of the PGA Tour and Happy Gilmore is the director of the film. The referee who like makes the call that the play was out of bounds, which results in the coach being sent to prison. That ref is the director, Dennis Dugan,
who he impales.
Yes, Dennis Dugan. That being said, Happy Gilmore also randomly includes an Asian stereotype in this like weird, sexy sequence.
Maybe there's something to that 80s movie, and they're trying to nod to an older audience because also what's up with the Neil Diamond? Like that is that for a little older audience? That's not for 12-year-old boys, and that's. I gotta look into Dennis Dugan to find out if he's like, hey, actually got more of a track record with this anti-Asian stuff, because that's a weird connection.
I think I have a transition for us. Because I'm weirdly not that hung up on it, even though I really found it disgusting. I think it's just a piece of evidence for a reality that sometimes people don't want to acknowledge, that these casual stereotypes exist, that people aren't even consciously planning to incorporate. And my transition is this. Media lit would not exist if not for the best boss I ever had. I'm bringing us back to UMass Amherst. This was Dorinda Bynum Lewis, who was my direct supervisor when I was a resident assistant at UMass Amherst. And one small piece of my job was there was a requirement that you had to plan community events. And, each year there was an initiative that at least one of your events had to actively be trying to promote diversity in some way. And I did not have a problem with that, but I did not have a great toolkit for understanding how to do that effectively. And I think my brilliant idea was I was just trying to show a movie. And the film Crash had come out recently, and I was like, that got an Academy Award, and that's about issues of race. And I wrote up my thing, and I had this great meeting with Dorinda where she gave me incredible advice that I was not mature enough to fully understand until later. And basically she said, this is fine. This is okay. And she was trying to say, like, but what if you went with a movie that's going to be higher interest for the residents? And what if you tried to look at how that movie is dealing with issues of race? I think I still wound up going with Crash, and I didn't fully get what she was trying to say. Whereas I could have been watching a movie like Saving Silverman and having a conversation like we're having right now, and that could have been a great thing. And I think about that as a teacher all the time because she was trying to teach me such an important lesson, and it took several more years for it to click. And it wasn't her fault. It's just how we develop. So let's do it. Let's have that conversation because I think we've looked at some potential issues, but there's so much here to love. I genuinely did have a great time watching this movie. So let's go to let's move on to our next question.
Yeah, okay, I agree, man. I totally agree. We've established, I think, how we might approach this differently if we could do it again today. But I think we've also been pretty vulnerable in admitting that there's real heart in this film. That's where I want to key now. Like, what kinds of truths do we think that this movie shares about the male experience, right? We all grew up as young men in this country, kind of around the same age, not exactly, but relatively close. How does this tell a truth about the way we change, the way we grow, the way our relationships have to change over the years? Randy, let's go back to you, buddy.
I'm so happy you went to me. Now, there was something that each of you said earlier, and I wouldn't call this pushing back because I don't actually think either of you are going to disagree with me, but I saw the most depth out of anyone in Wayne. I saw the most depth in Wayne because I didn't necessarily see him as this one-dimensional character. I didn't necessarily see him as this tough guy persona. I saw him very much as a guy who wishes he could be that. Are either of you Wes Anderson fans?
I've seen some Wes Anderson.
So, like, one of his first films, it's not his best, though I do love it. It's called Bottle Rocket, the first film with Owen and Luke Wilson. It really brought them onto the scene. Wes Anderson's buddies. Luke Wilson is kind of the central character. He's got a little bit of a wealthier background than Owen Wilson's character. They're buddies. Luke Wilson's checked himself into a mental hospital for some emotional distress. And he's had a great time. He's like, made lots of friends, met lots of beautiful girls. He's been going out for like 8-mile runs every day. He's in like the best shape of his life. And his buddy Dignan, played by Owen Wilson, is waiting for him on the outside. And he's got his little spiral notebook, and he's got this whole, I kid you not, like 50 to 75-year plan of how they are going to become criminal masterminds. He's written this thing all in crayon and marker. And he's so serious about it. He's so desperate for it. And as a result, he's so susceptible to manipulation, to being taken advantage of. And it's so sad. And I think it was because this Dignan character is so near and dear to my heart that I saw him in Wayne, and I was making a lot of comps. In Bottle Rocket, Dignan works for a lawn care company called the Lawn Wranglers. And, in Saving Silverman, we see Wayne, he pops up. He's got these little affectations of the cowboy hat and the truck. I've got the exact name written down. It is the Cowboy Wayne Pest Posse and Rodent Wrangler Service. And there are a couple interesting things Wayne does, and I'm going to throw these to you guys because I'm curious what you think. Because the first thing he does is in this moment where we meet Judith, he's trying to play the wingman, goes up, hey, check out my friend over there. He saw you. Judith makes it crystal clear she is not interested. And he walks back over and he's like, she likes you, man. She sees you. And I learned so much about Wayne in this moment because I had a really long note about it because I was like, okay, what's he doing here? Because it's not playing like a prank. Oh, I'm going to set up my buddy to go fail and it's going to be funny. He's not bringing that energy to it. And And I couldn't tell. Does he think that he's just trying to give his buddy confidence and maybe he's going to overcome it? Or is he so unable to read signals that he's really deluded himself into thinking she's playing hard to get? And I wasn't sure which one it was. Did you guys have any theories on that?
I agree. I thought that was very curious because does he not want him to have a girlfriend, or does he? Like, he is trying to play the wingman, but then he sees it's not going to work out, and then he has him do it anyway, not to have a laugh at his expense, as you said. But he clearly, as soon as it starts going well, he doesn't like that, and he doesn't want to lose Darren. So maybe he's just doing it because, oh, there's no shot with that girl. But I think there is. I agree. Maybe I did discount Wayne. I think there is more to him because there was one moment where Darren and Judith are having the engagement party, and Wayne and JD show up, and they say to her, "Oh, our invitation must have got lost in the mail." So, like, how did they know that was happening? Like, I feel like it's suggested that Wayne has maybe got some stalker tendencies, and his relationship with Darren is you never know. You are left to wonder, what does he want out of Darren? So that scene, I agree. You don't know what to
Interesting.
think.
I do think that Wayne's our main character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he narrates.
He narrates, but I think the film focuses on him to the point where he does end up with some decent depth. And in this moment, I don't think he's so deluded that he actually thinks that she's playing hard to get.
Yeah.
Right. And I trust that because he reacts to exactly how how disinterested she is. Like, whoa, okay, just hold on a second. Let me just talk to you here. I do think Randy, you've mentioned this on past pods. It's a tremendous amount of unearned confidence. It's this and that's where he is deluded. So I do think that when he goes back to Darren, I think he genuinely believes that maybe if Darren goes down there and gives it his best, he could have a shot. In worst case scenario, he'll have at least motivated him to try. He'll have done something for his friend to kind of break him out of his little funk here. So I don't think he's being what?
No, you just gave me an epiphany. Finish up and then I'll share it.
Love that.
I'm sorry.
I don't think that he's being deceitful. Like, I don't think he's trying to have a laugh at Darren. I don't think he's so deluded as to think that he has a chance with Judith, really. And I think it's interesting what you mentioned there, that I also noted how immediately he's like, it's just having a drink, not like they're going steady or anything.
He's already not into it.
Just
told him go over there.
Yeah, so the epiphany is I just came up with a theory. I didn't have one at the start of the pod. And this is why I like Wayne. I wrote in my notes, Wayne is so pure. That's what I wrote. He is hungry and thirsty and desperate for connection, for family. I don't recall if we get a line officially confirming if his parents are dead or not, but he seems to have inherited the family home. And I mean, I think your full Neil Diamond explanation is his only connection to them is this story that, in the womb, he attended a Neil Diamond concert. He's latched onto that. He needs it. He tries to give the family home away to Judith just to get Darren back because he needs that family and connection. It's his first move. And if I go back to that wingman moment, I'm suddenly thinking he knows she's not into it, but he really loves Darren that much that I think he believes that she's not going to be able to resist this guy if she really meets him.
Yes.
And I think that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they also live by the credos that the coach has instilled in them, which is go out and do it and be hopeful and you can get it done. So it does kind of make sense for his character. And I think the Neil Diamond thing, I don't know why I didn't think about that, because I have written down a lot of this movie, I feel like, is suggesting that people are frozen in time by trauma. Like Darren saying, because Sandy moved away, he can never have love again. That makes no sense because his character is very confident. He loves cheerleading. He loves music. Like, he loves his life, but he also can never have love because of he's stuck in the past. Is Sandy moving the trauma, or did something else happen? Like, there is, and that would make sense. Wayne too. That's his only connection. He's stuck. He was in utero, so he don't know how to be an adult. He doesn't know how to be anything. So yeah, that is interesting.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love that idea that trauma has them stuck, developmentally stuck. That's brilliant. I'm so glad that we can mine this kind of depth out of Wayne, because I think it would be easy to stay stuck just in the relationship dynamics, to say, hey, it's tough as we grow up as men. We, you know, when you're young, all your time is for your friends. That's where any of your free time, your passions, your attention, that's who it goes to. You're living for yourself and for your buddies. And as you get older, those priorities change. That's not really what this movie's interested in. This movie
Right.
isn't about he's getting a girlfriend and therefore he has no time for his buddies anymore. It's about this very specific type of girlfriend, and they'd be happy if he had a different type of girlfriend. They just all want to be able to grow together and not grow apart, right? So it's not they don't want to grow. They do, but they just want to do it together, and they don't know how by any means.
Yeah, I agree totally. The movie is about them trying to grow, and like a lot about the different psyches that men have and the archetypes that they play. And yeah, I didn't really realize. I even said when we started talking, I feel like they don't explore Wayne at all, and I'm glad I'm here because I kind of want to watch it again now. And that's a good point about. I even wrote down what is his first plan? His first move is giving the family house away. Oh yeah, because he don't want that house. Like that reminds him of his trauma and all this.
Really
stuff.
interesting. I'm so glad you guys mentioned this idea that perhaps his parents died young. That helps to give so much context to him, because when I was validating the idea that he wasn't really fleshed out that much, I found myself questioning as I was watching the movie, like, they don't really tell us how any of these guys got to be who they are. Like, what made Wayne the kind of guy who projects a masculine image? Is it the coach, really? You know,
that's really all you get backstory wise in terms of
his dad seems fine when you see them at the concert. There's no reason to think that he's like some hardo mean guy. He's like in bell bottoms with the beard and hair. Like, he's more hippie than anything. There's the one moment where Wayne mentions that his dad is dropping him on his head. That's like the only backstory that you actually get for him. And I was trying to decide if I thought that was enough to fill in the blanks to decide how he got to be who he is today. But this idea that his parents actually died young is much more potent. I'm so glad we got there together.
We've got this movie. It's got a lot of heart. We've talked at length about what it means to us as men who, you know, are growing into our 30s. And yeah, I hit 40. You know, it hits a little bit differently looking back on that moment. But let's talk about these performances, because we've been talking all around them. I think we've all shouted out Jack Black and Steve Zahn in particular, but there's certainly more we can celebrate here as well. But we've got some true comedy heavyweights in this film. And I'm just curious, which performance stands head and shoulders above the rest for you guys? Owen, I'm going to go to you first. Who leads the movie? Who's got the best performance for you?
For me, when I was answering this question, it was tough. And so I went with who got the biggest laughs for me on this watch through. I would say Jack Black, I love. He has had a big influence on my life, probably starting really with this movie. But Steve Zahn, I mean, he's pretty brilliant. Like, the hardest laugh I had was from him when Darren is having he's listening to Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely. And Steve Zahn comes in and he says, "You got to go out to dinner." And he leans over and he goes to blow out the candles. Not a single one goes out. I like screamed. Like, he just when they saw that, they must have just went like, "Oh my God, like, this guy is perfect." So on this watch through,
come on. All right, come on.
So
yeah, come on.
So hard to argue that. I mean, speaking to my little puppy dog over here, Wayne, when he gets into like a name calling contest with Judith and she totally defeats him, and his final comeback is, "You stealer of my friends," because that's what it's all about.
I wrote
Kris,
that down.
Kris, what's your top performance?
All right, I've got a tie here. I've got a tie for the top two. And so I'll validate, yes, and Owen, Steve Zahn has the comedic chops in this. The little physical tics, the voice play, all of it. That moment where he says, "Here's my dad and here's me," and my dad is dropping me on my head. it's not just the way he says it, it's then like the moment he takes to process that quietly before going on. He's brilliant, but similarly brilliant as a performer. Maybe didn't get as many out loud laughs from me, but Amanda Peet, Judith, is brilliantly performed in this for such a character who could be totally two-dimensional. Her voice work is brilliant. There's a version of Judith for every little bit of manipulation that she's trying to play, right? There's a way she talks to Darren. There's a way she talks to Wayne. There's a way she talks to JD. And all of that lives in the performance. It's really quite brilliant. She's easy to hate. She's also easy to empathize with in the moments where she needs to be empathized with. Because again, this movie doesn't ultimately judge anybody.
And she also is defined by her trauma because she had a MMA
Exactly
boyfriend
right.
who died, fiance who died. So now she'll never date a hardcore guy again. She has a life path that is decided by trauma, like almost every character in this movie.
Yeah, and I think Amanda Peet really performed that well.
Jack Black is very funny in this movie. He's doing great work. I'm a huge fan. I remain a huge fan. It's probably Steve Zahn for me, but if it's a tie, it's with Amanda Peet, and she's the person I feel like I still want to talk about right now. So I'm gonna yes and the Amanda Peet answer. I agree with every single thing that Kris had to say, but there was something about Amanda Peet in this time period, especially. She was getting a ton of roles, and I don't know if any other actress who was getting a lot of work in these types of movies in this time period ever projected the same sort of just confidence and respect that I felt for Amanda Peet, even like in an innate sort of way, right? It's the vulnerability, like you were both speaking about. She says sometimes you have to make cold, rational decisions. You can't always follow your heart is a really heartbreaking thing that she says to try to explain what it is that she sees in Darren, why she's pursuing that relationship. But despite the fact that we've got this very male gazy movie, I went through a long breakdown of some concerns I have about the way relationships are portrayed in this film. Even if all of that is true, when you get to something like that bedroom sequence, when we see the bedroom life of Judith and Darren, it's hilarious. It's grounded in this very immature sort of male fear, but she is so good in it. Even if you knew all of those things, it would be hard not to watch that and have a good time watching Amanda Peet come across as so empowered. Like it feels so good to see her in control of that situation. It's so powerful, right? Because this is coming on the heels of American Pie, and let's broadcast a woman without her knowledge, and that's the worst thing that happens in that movie. And I love that exists in this movie. Like that's a read you can have of that movie today that still works.
Yeah. And she's totally believable in that moment, in that power, right? I wrote down a list of things that were notable changes from the unrated version, because I'm used to watching from my childhood the unrated version. That's something we used to do more of with DVDs and movies like this. But for this, I watched just the regular, like rated. It might even be PG-13, honestly, because there are no F-bombs. There's no nudity in the regular version. I'm used to the unrated version. So there's a callback to that scene that you're describing, Randy, later when they're in the car after Judith has met JD and Wayne. She's telling Darren he can never see them again. He protests, and she says, fine, no more sex. And in the regular version, she says, fine, no more sex. And she says, don't make me take away your masturbation privileges. But in the unrated version, you find out that sex actually means going down on her. She says, fine, no more sex. Yeah, no going down on me for 6 weeks. And he's devastated. She has now established a version of power in this relationship where she can call it sex. And what he understands is him going down on her and then maybe getting to masturbate after. Powerful woman.
Yeah, I concur everything about Amanda Peet. Before the movie started, just seeing her, I wrote down that I thought it was her turn to play an emotionally damaged detective in some noir crime thriller. And people go, oh yeah, her. Like she was everywhere and like she was smashing her roles. So I kind of like wondering where she's at a little bit.
All right, so we did performances. Let's get into some of the filmmaking. Owen, do you have a favorite individual single shot from the movie?
A single shot would probably be the nacho thing. I did write down the scene that I loved the most was because I was sitting and watching this trying to really think about it when the nipple clamps electrocution scene hit. I loved that. I just was like reminded like I'm watching a stupid movie. It had sneakily maybe the funniest line in the movie when Darren's getting
The
dropped
guy?
and like a line that would never exist outside of a movie. No one would ever say it in real life. He looks at me and goes, "Damn, he's good." And he's like keeps grooving. That oh man, that got me. So that was at least this time, that was my favorite.
Randy, you got a favorite shot from the movie?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, oh, it's a tie. I think the other one's lower hanging fruit, so I'll go with the one that was technically number 2 on my list. But just after Judith escapes, we have this giant confrontation back at the house. Everything hits the fan. Um, Darren's throwing people off the porch, landing on the car. There's this moment where you've got both Wayne and JD like on the hood and the roof of the collapsed vehicle, and Amanda Detmer is like hanging out of the car screaming in like this little mini tableau of pain and emotional pain for her. She's unharmed physically, but just shouting out in this sort of like emotional pain and desperation. And I just loved how it transported me to that emotional place.
Great call out on that shot, because it is that what was the word you just used? It wasn't vignette.
Tableau.
Tableau. Beautiful. It was a beautiful tableau of those 3 bodies. You can almost see it as an oil painting and framed. And I did note that moment because Jack Black's physical performance, he's so you can tell that everything in his body is tight. Like, when you're in so much pain, you can't breathe good. He was doing that. That's a great call. What about a whole favorite scene for you, Randy?
So I'm gonna say, all right, you know what? My favorite scene is just that first performance of Diamonds in the Rough. We get to see them in full action at their happiest point of the entire movie. I think even happier than the celebration at the end with the real Neil Diamond. I think it's easily Jason Biggs' best moment in the whole movie when he is grooving at that keyboard. They've got the matching outfits. That he's trying to groove with people in the audience, and like they're feeling it, and I'm feeling it. And I was like, I'd go see this cover band. Like they're having such a good time. I'm so happy they have this. They've stepped out of these, unfulfilling jobs that they've walked away from. We've seen that they're not going so well, but when the Diamonds in the Rough get together, everything's a little more beautiful in the world. The confidence amps up, and I loved it.
It's a great name, great band name.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think my favorite shot was really easy upon this rewatch. This was the one that, because this is a standard question for us in our outline, I walked into the movie concerned that there wouldn't be much fodder for. I wasn't expecting us to call out the beautiful tableaus in this film, but I did take note.
It's media lit, man.
Yeah, buddy. This movie has a surprising amount of action in it. There are some like action set pieces, not just fight choreography, but real action stuff. Fast cars driving, chairs smashing over people's heads, cars getting smashed in. But the image of Jack Black's face in the toilet with his nylon thing on during that first kidnapping, and Judith is getting electrocuted by Wayne, but Judith is also holding JD, so JD is getting electrocuted with his face in the toilet bowl. It's this great shot from inside the toilet bowl. You get the blue flashing of the electricity, and Jack Black giving just the best performance in that moment. And I loved that shot. That is, I can close my eyes and just see it. My favorite scene, though, is I'll go all the way to the end of the movie. Like the sequence from where they break out of prison right through like the end credits where we get the Neil Diamond concert that they're all in, from the breakout in prison to the actual wedding, where maybe it ends with the coach and JD deciding to get hitched, right? Man, that that scene is propulsive. That sequence rather is propulsive. It's full of energy. It's still full of laughs. You get Neil Diamond cameoing in the film, not just like in those brief security moments, but now he's actually playing himself, delivering lines of dialogue that are just his own lyrics spoken out loud like they're real words. It's
Yep.
We're coming to
amazing.
America.
It's absolutely brilliant. And then the farcical nature of this film is so beautifully on display with how this wedding then plays out. Like the way the audience does and doesn't react to what's happening, the way the priest just kind of accepts like all of this. Neil Diamond's here. You get like a couple of hopeful expressions of the word Neil, and then you get Amanda Peet, Neil. You know, like there's only one person who could have ruined this day for me, and it's Neil Diamond. Here he is. I laugh at that scene again and again. But then you get great character stuff like Wayne and Judith coming to their moment of like, fuck, we hate each other, but we're actually going to kiss now, and it's actually going to be good. It's great. I want it for both of them as I'm watching that sequence, as I'm watching her smash a chair over his head and knock his tooth out.
Yeah, man, that was the most Shakespearean moment for me, but more on that later.
Totally.
Yeah, I love that. That was a great call on the Diamonds in the Rough when they're playing the music. First of all, Jason Biggs absolutely selling the male cheerleader and absolutely selling the get into it, guys, like cover band artists, like smashing that. And then I thought it kind of like, if you want to see it this way, they really value those like small moments that don't really mean anything. Those just like being with their boys and hanging out, because you can see they risk everything to try to like hold on to that. Like they kidnap a woman and break out of jail. They're probably going to like go to jail for life on the slim chance that Darren might like see the light and like,
Right.
they can still be
Right.
find a way to be in their life. Like they're risking everything just for those like, you know, those simple moments where they're having fun with their buddies.
Yeah, those moments are fun.
I'm so thrilled that we were able to find some great artistic moments, some great storytelling choices, some really fun filmmaking. But before we move on to our next set of questions, I thought maybe we could just open up the floor, do a little round table. Just share any of our favorite quotes and or bits from the movie. Like, this is such a fun, funny movie. Although feel free to hit me with some heart if you still got another line in there that had a lot of value. Kris, I'm going to go. Why don't you kick us off with this little round table of like some favorite bits and quotes that we haven't had a chance to shout out yet?
All right. Favorite bit for me is probably JD as Subway employee / school mascot. Like those two parts of his identity get repeated again and again throughout the film to such absurd effectiveness. I have too many quotes to do this in any effective podcasting way. I have way too many. I think Tomorrow's Casual Friday, one of my favorite. I have said that in real life so many times. It doesn't work by itself without the context of the film. But there are people in my life to whom I can simply say, but tomorrow's Casual Friday, and they will know just what I'm going through. Damn, that was my favorite jacket. Brilliantly delivered, just an absurd line. Favorite jacket. In fact, that might be one of my favorite. That just reminded me one of my favorite bits in the movie isn't even within the main dynamic of the characters, but the news broadcast right after the accident. Do you guys recall the news broadcast?
Yeah. They like don't connect the dots on the two.
They don't just not connect them. They intentionally keep them disconnected and in totally unrelated news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like some Arrested Development level, like subtle humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And it's that stuff that lets you know that this is a farce, that this film is not trying to be. We've got nuns benching 225, you know.
Yeah. Listening to Nelly.
I could keep going, but if you let me, I'm going to take all the good ones. So one of you guys should talk about your favorite bit.
I would say that probably the ones that I've said the most is you fixed it. It was the lug nut. I think we said that no matter what was broken. Like there did not need to be a lug nut. Like the way he delivered that And the way that it made me realize, oh my God, like sometimes you don't even have to be saying a joke, just the way you're saying it. Like that's gonna get it for you. And then the the other one that I mean, I've credited him sometimes, but I've probably gotten laughs with it 1,000 times in my life, is when he goes, what else can I tell you about the second grade? When he's babbling on about being afraid of toilets. Next time someone's babbling on, hit him with that, whole room's gonna laugh. Like he just absolutely. But then the other one that I totally forgot about, and like, or I was just like, I really love this Steve Zahn guy. When she asks him for a big Montana or something from Arby's, and he goes no. But then he comes back later with the Arby's, and he goes, yeah, I just happened to be by an Arby's, and they were throwing out some old food, so I thought, why not? Like, he doesn't want to give her the satisfaction at all, but like he went out of his way and got Arby's. Oh yeah, that one really I forgot about.
Brilliant.
I've got one, but I just wanted to thank Owen for shouting out the lug nut, because part of what made me connect with this movie, like I mentioned earlier, was the directionless young men in the film Bottle Rocket. I was talking about my guy Dignan, and there's just this great moment in that movie where the car breaks down, and he's so desperate to like meet his definition of what he thinks manhood is. So he's like got the hood open, and he's like fiddling around at random, and he's like, I could fix the car, but I don't have the tools that I need. And if only I had the tools that I need, I could. And like it's bullshit. So, but love that lug nut. It was not the lug nut. Was another one of those moments that connected me there.
Exactly, dude. It was not the lug nut.
I'm gonna shout out my girl Amanda Peet once again, because one of the biggest laughs for me is she's escaped her captors. She's made it back to Darren. She's collapsed into his arms. She's crying. She's in distress, and it's partly real. And she's also reading the situation because she's a smooth operator, and she's knowing how to get the right reaction. And gets Sandy to leave. But as Sandy is leaving, she has this incredible line delivery of, "You run along back to the nunnery."
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I had to pause because I was just dying, because again, we've been kind of hinting at like Shakespeare and like this sort of hidden gravitas beneath the surface, and that's what happens, right? Like we're gonna send this young woman off to the nunnery before she gets into any shenanigans or matches up with the wrong man. And that felt like the most active nod to that for me. And just the delivery, it's so dismissive and so perfect. That's got to be my line. Also, just want to yes and the Subway sandwich sequence. It's the 1-2 punch of small, medium, long. I'm already laughing. And when the next shot is a sandwich with like bread just draped on top of the bun,
on top.
That's perfectly executed humor in my book. Like just the absurdity and the 1-2 punch of that. The third bit doesn't land as well. It's still funny, but those first two, that first 1-2 punch. And JD's so proud, man. Like he's really tried his absolute best with these guys.
He's like, you didn't send me though. These aren't the brightest or something like that.
And right, because it's the absurd humor, but it's paired with that real irony, that character development. Like, he does want things. He did take pride in Subway U. So
yeah, totally.
Exactly. Wanted to do a good job.
I got one more thing I want to call out, because I wrote a quote here that ties into a bit of a Wayne is deluded, right? But watching other characters try to process his delusional proclamations, it was a joy throughout, and everybody does it a little bit differently. But when he first approaches Judith, and she's like, I don't want to meet him. He says, great. And he turns to walk away, and she's like, the fuck is wrong with this guy? You see it playing on Sandy's face as well, as Sandy's trying to talk to him. And he's just one absurd delusion after another. And then finally he's talking to Darren, trying to convince Darren that he has to go on this date with Sandy. You gave her your word. I didn't even talk to her, says Darren. And despite other people knowing how full of it Wayne is, Wayne never skips a beat. Wayne never once, in the face of those reactions, questions like, wait a minute, am I talking out of my ass right now? No, he is fully committed. He is buying everything that he's selling. And it's
when he gets the idea to kidnap her, Like they're just talking, and when he says that, his face goes into a pure bliss state. Like he knows now that his plan to get everybody back together, and now that's it. And she calls him out specifically what you're saying when she says we call that a delusional projection fantasy. He's just talking about, he says Neil Diamond's the greatest songwriter of any generation. People just have to accept that. And I Googled it. That's what projection fantasy is making people accept your subjective opinion. So if you say like everyone in the world is awful, and then Kris would say, what do you mean? I know great people. That's not true. My experience, the objective experience is different than that, but that person projecting it. And so that is what Steve's on. That he's just forcing people to accept his plan and his.
Yeah, I think JD screams, yeah. Then he goes, what?
Exactly. He's like, what are we doing? Like, that seems crazy. But as soon as he says it, you can tell he's hyper fixated and he's like relieved because he knows what he has to do now, whether it makes sense really or not.
I'm so sorry. There is one more that I wrote down twice in my notes, and I realized I haven't shouted it out yet. It's just the running gag of the food that they feed Judith throughout the time that she is in their care. Like the first shot, there's just a plate of cookies on the table. Later, he comes in with the most disgusting white bread bologna sandwich ever, with a mound of Cheetos to the side that are like falling off of the plate. We get donuts at one point, and of course, the grand finale of the Arby's sequence. Just what a way to communicate their immaturity and like lack of adult understanding.
Yeah, they have her watching. The Three Stooges are on the TV, and JD brings her more movies to choose from. We got monster trucks and porn. Oh, and I got you one that's both. Truly immature.
I also love one quick scene when I just thought it was the perfect bouncing off each other when they do the plan to have pictures and Photoshop Darren's face on. And then Judith shows up with the pictures and they think that they've pulled it off. And Steve's on turns to him and he goes, so I guess, I don't know, I dumped him, like they really are, they're trying to be coy and like it seems like 10 steps ahead of them. Oh,
yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry. I am now will be the one to apologize because we haven't talked about Coach much yet.
Sure.
Killer.
Yeah.
Instantly.
The running joke of who this character is, it's made all the more potent by who the actor is, right? So I saw Full Metal Jacket way too young.
Yeah.
It's a brutal movie. To any of our listeners out there, podlings, if you've not seen Full Metal Jacket, don't.
That's one of them.
Yeah, this isn't a recommendation. Yeah. It's a recommendation that you don't. It's a great movie that you don't need to see. Yeah. And so he's the notorious drill sergeant, right? He is the guy who's so brutal that we'll watch a character commit suicide, right? So seeing him as Coach, as a slapstick, absurd version of that archetype, but as a football coach, also one who these guys love and who loves them. All of them absolutely stuck in the time and place that they spent together. It makes no sense that the third string quarterback, the mascot, and a cheerleader would have any relationship at all with maybe the third string quarterback, maybe. But the idea that they all have this like, you boys are like sons to me, he says. What? How did that happen? When did that happen?
He shows up there when he gets out of
Listen, we're going to be making literary comps in a minute, and this is very Game of Thrones, bastards and broken things, right? Like the coach murders a referee. I perhaps he got manslaughter. I don't know. Murder second degree. That community is not talking to Coach ever again. They're not talking about Coach if they can help it. But this little ragtag group of nobodies, they're not going to lose anyone they were connected with. Whether or not that's a healthy choice, that's who they are. So yeah, it makes sense. Like those are like the only three guys that still will have anything to do with him, probably.
Mm.
Yeah, the coach is saying the family's complaining, and JD goes, "What is their problem?" Like they're totally on board with him. Maybe it's the only ones that will put up with him.
Victims' whiny families protesting again.
Yeah. What is their
unbelievable? Well, Randy, I'm glad you brought us to literature, man. Let's go there. Because I think that's a pretty strong comp turning to Game of Thrones. Did this movie ping any other literary references for you while you were watching?
If I'm going to leave Shakespeare to the side for you, Chris, I'll chime in if I have anything worth adding at that time. So I'm actually going to bring us back 100 years. Uh, I'm going to bring us to The Great Gatsby by F. Scott
Mm.
Fitzgerald. And believe it or not, I'm not here to talk about the character of Jay Gatsby. I'm not here to talk about the character of Nick Carraway or even Daisy Buchanan, despite the fact that an unhealthy relationship is the center of this story, and the relationships in Gatsby are all total disasters. Although the movies tend to want to depict them as beautiful and worth fighting for, that's not what's in the book. I am a high school English teacher in my 18th year teaching. I have taught The Great Gatsby to at least one class for the last 18 years, and often more than that. I've read The Great Gatsby more than most people, so that's certainly a part of my identity, whether I like it or not. And the character that I'm the most intrigued by in that book is not one of the main characters. It's Jordan Baker. This is Daisy Buchanan's
Mm.
friends. She's got largely thematic value in the story. She is, another heiress to a wealthy family. Um, and she's a few years younger than Daisy Buchanan. And because she is also a professional golfer, she's been able to hold off and push off this pressure to get married and settle down a little bit longer than a lot of her peers have been able to. Uh, and she's still holding on to this world where she has some control, where the social class and circles she exists in are really going to work hard to push her down to get her in the right match to a man who's going to be making the decisions, and she knows it, she senses it. And during this summer that the doofy Nick Carraway shows up to Long Island and follows these rich and wealthy people around, he starts dating Jordan Baker, and it's kind of cool for him. This is out of his league. This beautiful celebrity heiress who he doesn't have the means to marry, but here she is with me. Um, and it's not a very healthy relationship. Jordan Baker is a liar, she has cheated at least once in a major golf tournament. The caddy mysteriously changed his story after the initial investigation. The accusation was dropped. She's connected. Nick is dating her. And I was really thinking about Judith. And I was really thinking about this character of Jordan Baker. And I was thinking about Judith's need for control. She's had this trauma, this fear. Jordan Baker's not great, but she's lined up for an existence that could really make her feel locked up and losing a lot of control in her own life. So this is Nick's assessment of her. So 100 years old, it's a little bit sexist, but what he says is Jordan Baker instinctively avoided clever, shrewd men. And now I saw that this was because she felt safer on a plane where any divergence from a code would be thought impossible. She wasn't able to endure being at a disadvantage, and given this unwillingness, I suppose she had begun dealing in subterfuges when she was very young, in order to keep that cool, insolent smile turned to the world, and yet satisfy the demands of her hard, jaunty body. Just after this assessment, we hear a story where Jordan Baker nearly kills a worker on the side of the road while she's driving the car. The car flicks a button on his coat. And Nick is very disturbed that she's not more concerned about this near accident that very likely would have killed this man. And she kind of brushes it off and says, it takes two people to make an accident. It's going to be this other person's fault. People are going to look out for me. It's not all my fault. What's the big deal? Nick doesn't love this. Nick follows that up with a question, and he says, well, what if you meet someone as careless as you? And she says, I hope I never will. I hate careless people. That's why I like you, is what she says to Nick. Because he's got this sense of decency and responsibility to her, and she feels safer in that. She feels in control. And that got me thinking about Judith and why she needs it, and why she really does want to be with Darren, even if it's not necessarily with his best interests at heart. But it got me thinking about all that empathy. And Jordan Baker's a character I have empathy for, even though she's not a great person. So that's my big literary connection.
Yeah, I can see that totally with the, like I touched on before, her ex-fiance, I think it was, dying, and she maybe has felt that she has completely lost. That was a wake-up moment that she doesn't have control, and she's trying to seize it back. And the way she's doing that is having a careful, partner that is she can rely on. She knows what she's going to get, and she wants to steer the ship and dictate things. That's how she feels control.
Kris, what do you have for a literary connection?
Yeah, I think I've said it already a bunch of times on this pod, but it was in prepping for this and then in actually rewatching the movie that I couldn't believe how familiar the Shakespearean pace of storytelling was. Of course, like they're not speaking in iambic pentameter by any means, but there's such a cleverness to the language. The characters on screen are absolutely farcical, but they're not so absurd that we can't find human truth in them and learn something from them as they go through this extremely slapsticky experience. So some of Shakespeare's comedies are some of my favorites. Whether it's something a little bit more drippy and romantic, like Much Ado About Nothing, which is a lot of fun, but still has a romance at the heart of it. Midsummer Night's Dream. This movie gives me a lot of Midsummer Night's Dream with, I think of Nick Bottom, I think of confused identities, and I think of trickery. This movie is full of just shenanigans. I can't believe Wayne gets away with telling the police that he just bagged himself one of those killer goats what escaped from the zoo.
They're like,
it honestly reminded me of like one of Oberon's glamours. Like it was the elves and the fairies pulling one over on reality to make this whole thing work. And so this movie, it's referencing Taming of the Shrew in a lot of ways. You look at the Judith character, you look at the Wayne character, and you can almost see Kate and Benedict there. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this movie was trying to be, but that's how I experience it, as this really brilliant Shakespearean farce. That last wedding sequence where we get like a big group wedding couldn't have felt more Shakespeare. And it even culminates then in the concert, the Neil Diamond concert. That felt like the kind of up note that a Shakespearean comedy ends on. This could have been a Shakespearean tragedy. You could probably take this exact same plot and rework it a little bit so that it's actually dark as all get out, and it ends really tragically for all of these characters. But yeah, Shakespeare end to end.
Yeah, it's so much about the tone and the pacing with Shakespeare, right? Like, and then I really love the problem plays where it's really hard to define them. Like my favorite example of that is probably The Merchant of Venice, because it ends with almost all the characters getting married and there's the celebration and it's wonderful. But in earning that, not only do they stop Shylock from taking his pound of flesh, but it gets real dark real fast. They stop him from doing that. They strip him of all of his finances. They force him to convert his religion against his will. And they completely like break this man down as much as they possibly can and then turn around to go get married. Right. So it's like, that line is always so fine.
Yeah, it's a very, very fine line. Yeah, problem plays is a really a good way of describing where this falls into that Shakespearean world. Yeah. It's irreverent. It is delightfully irreverent while still having some real truth on display. So
I've recently, for the first time, watched The Sopranos.
Whoa.
I've never watched it. I think I saw it as a kid. I went, this is boring to me. Like, I'm not mature enough for this. I never gave it a shot. I'm finally watching it now, and I see a lot of the same. There's Tony in therapy, trying to explore himself, trying to find truths about himself. There's a lot of acknowledgement of not being a good person and what does that mean. And there's also what I was talking about, like with the diamond and the rough, them enjoying the simple pleasures. That is a huge thing in The Sopranos, is like what what is all this for? Just so we can like sit around and eat prosciutto? But like, yeah, like that's what we like to sit around and do our rituals if it's watching movies or whatever it is. So I think there was I saw a lot of the same things. I don't know if it's just because I'm watching it and it's on my mind, but I think there was the credit given to trying to do like self-discovery
Sure.
through just like talking about things. And so yeah, that one I kind of I loved the like I said, the psychoanalysis angle to the whole thing. Like I think that was part of the stuff that snuck its way in and like stuck with me, even though I was really just seduced by the amazing performances and the laughs. So yeah, it's similar themes. I think.
No, that's
Well
perfect.
said. That one of the nicest things anyone's ever said about Saving
Like
Silverman.
Sopranos.
Yeah.
Sopranos does a similar thing where they lure you in with the violence and the yelling and the sex and the boobs, but it's not about that at all. There's a million shows that have that, and there's not a million The Sopranos. Like it's more about the family dynamics and all that stuff, which is different, but there is those themes of self-exploration, which is like the main harp of it to me.
Yeah, such a great comp because you really already spoke to it, but yeah, just that pull between like one version of masculinity and getting in touch with the vulnerable side. Beautiful stuff.
Mhm.
Kris, I think it might be time for us to play one of our favorite media lit games. Are you up for this?
Get me my ticket. I've got my luggage. I'm ready to board the ship. Let's go.
All right. One of our favorite media lit bits is the "Do You Ship It" sequence, where we look sometimes at some relationships that we get in a film, and maybe some relationships that we found ourselves wondering about as we watched. And we just, comment quickly on whether or not we ship them. I will be your host for this segment. I will do my best to keep my mouth shut unless I feel like I've got a really compelling new angle, because I really want to hear what you guys have had to say. I've been extra talkative tonight. Oh, and I'm going to go to you first. Do you ship it, Darren and Sandy, the doe-eyed couple that end up together at the end of this film?
I do ship it. I'm rooting for them. I ship it. I think there's a lot of questions about why they have to move so fast. Like, can nuns not get lunch with someone? Why did she have to get lunch with him before she says her vows? So it's a little questionable, but yes, I still ship it.
Kris, how about you?
I totally agree in that I want them to take some time. I want them to really work through these feelings they have, this sense of connectedness, right? They're getting married on a couple of dates, and the idea that they carried a flame for each other ever since high school, right? That being said, great Shakespearean stories are full of love at first sight, big feelings expressed bigly. And this movie wants us to believe in one and only someone's. It doesn't drive that home a ton throughout, but it's uttered early in the movie, right? That's how Darren describes Sandy, his one and only someone. JD then repeats it later as he's confused. Isn't one and only like one and only? And then at the very end of the film, it's finally the thing that Darren says honestly to Judith. Finally, he's able just to say, like, no, I'm sorry. Now that I'm listening to Neil, I'm ready to tell you she's my one and only someone. I want to believe in that in the world. And so, yeah, I'm rooting for these kids. Let's take some time to get to know each other, but I would love to see it work out.
I love the hopeful perspective you both brought to that. I'm a little less down on it only because it worried me how quickly she kept forgiving Darren for his bad moves with those big doe eyes. But I hope they find a healthy way as well. Great takes. All right,
Randy,
next up.
he ran 30 miles from the restaurant.
That's
So I don't know how you don't forgive a guy who runs 30 miles in that outfit.
It's a great point. It's quite a sacrifice, especially after what his body has just endured. All right, Kris, I'll go to you first on this one. Do you ship it, Wayne and Judith, one of our other 3 married couples?
Call me a hopeless romantic. I want to see these two characters be able to grow through each other. I want Wayne to be able to get out of his weird, infantile, stuck state in his obsession with Darren. You know, I want Judith to be with the kind of man that she's truly attracted to. whether she likes it or not, she's truly attracted to Wayne after that kiss. So she admits, right? I want that for her. And so I don't want him to have to kidnap her to spend some time together and feed her Arby's, you know? But I do want to believe that with time, there is something like an actual attraction there. There's a chemical attraction, an animal attraction between the two of them that is steamy and believable.
Love it. Owen, do you ship it?
Amazing. I do ship it, and I think what I want for Judith is for her to be able to relinquish some of the control. And he calls it out. He says, first he asks her, do you love him, Darren? She clearly doesn't. So he knows, and he says to her at the end, you need an assertive man. I'm the assertive guy that you need. And that's what I want for her, is for her to be unburdened, because that must be a lot to have to control everything in your life and your relationship. So maybe she gets eased a little bit by him.
Share some of that control. Love that.
Yeah, I'll ship it too, just because I'm hopeful about the Judith we see on stage, who is totally disinterested in Neil. Seems to be having the time of her life. So hopefully they've both reached a better place.
She looks happy. There are times where Judith is the real Judith. We actually see her as her real self, like when she's telling the story about the kickboxing. And maybe in the end there on the stage, everything else is this projected, manufactured version of herself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. And next up, do you ship it, JD and Coach?
I mean, I gotta ship it. I think we touched on how it's tropey and cheap how he has 5 minutes of therapy and he has a huge realization. But I thought I thought that did make sense for his character. Coach, they're just tossing that in. It's just fun. I think that you guys both were reminding me kind of how fun the end, how big and fun the ending and climax of this movie was. And that was part of it. It was just like, tie that one up like he's holding him. I ship it totally. They look completely in love.
I'm going to half co-sign this because I really do love like the affection that they have for each other. It is like JD is very concerned for Coach. He already loves Coach. Before they have that moment of like, you're gay, I'm gay. Oh, well, guess we'll just be together then. He immediately says yes to Coach moving in with them, right? Coach jumps out of the truck. He's worried about Coach. He goes back for Coach, carries him to the wedding in his own 2 arms. JD's not the most athletic guy in the movie. That being said, so I'll say yes in the context of the movie. I love it for both of them to be a part of the ending and everything else. Truly, though, if I have to imagine these characters moving forward from this movie, I need Coach to go back to prison, and I need JD to spend some time alone, continuing to find out about himself, continuing to go to therapy, continuing to grow outside of his friendship with Wayne and Darren, outside of a relationship with anybody. Not to say he can't have those things, but I need JD to really spend some time finding out who JD really is, not the kid who drinks milk to get a laugh at the table.
I know I said I would shush, but I've just got to come in with a hard no on this one for me because Coach is a terrifying and dangerous man. I don't love the power dynamics of like the way JD seems to feel the need to please him. And perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps the magic of Neil has transformed everyone into the healthiest version of themselves. But I don't believe that Coach and JD are having a cute little nacho night together. And I want that for him. I think there's just like a way cooler match for JD that's going to bring out the best in him. And I want him to find that.
Totally fair.
Kris, do you ship it? This is a relationship we did not see, but do you ship it, Judith and Sandy?
Yeah, there's a version of this movie where these 2 women realize these guys are fucking absurd and they just go off together and they win the day. I don't know if they're actually a great match. I don't really have a good reason why I should ship this other than they both get it so badly from the men in this movie at different times that I just would love to see them hop in a car together and ride off into the sunset. They probably have an opposites attract kind of dynamic. there are things that Sandy won't put up with that Judith that Darren did, right? I think that Sandy is a stronger person in the relationship than Darren was with Judith. So while I still think it'll establish that same general power dynamic, Judith will be that more assertive person in the relationship. We see Sandy stand up for herself throughout the movie. She's quick to forgive. I think that she's torn, but we're supposed to believe she's motivated by real feelings for Darren. But even in those feelings, she's constantly standing up for herself and constantly like drawing a line in like the sand about what's okay and what's not okay. You know, Darren's not going to keep mentioning, even as she has empathy for the fact that Judith just died, she's not going to get into a relationship with a guy who like can't even not mention her. Right? So I think she could stand toe to toe with Judith and they could have something kind of fun together.
Yeah, she can raise the bar. If you mess up again, next time you've got to run 50 miles. 50. Owen, what do you think? Do you ship it?
I wouldn't ship it just because I find them both to be impulsive. Like they both can be all in immediately. A lot of characters in this movie, but I would say both of them, it's like the highest of stakes. The decisions are made like too easily. So I just see the two of those people together that could just be volatile. Like, Judith sees Darren and she makes like a snap decision that she could dominate him. And so now that's her entire life. And, Sandy is basically going to become the most extreme thing on this end or this end. And it like changes every day. She's going to become a nun or she's going to cancel it and run off with this guy from her past. Like, so I just think two of those people together, I feel like that ends in an explosion of some sort.
So my next question is it's a new riff on Do You Ship It? I'm going to give you an array of options, and I want to hear which one you think you like the sound of the most. So we're going to keep it in the original family, the three bros, the three friends. We do have these questions raised about a couple of these different pairings at minor points in the movie. So if we were going to keep the love within our three buddies, what's the best option for you? Is it Wayne and Darren, JD and Darren, Wayne and JD, or should this just be a throuple? Could it be a healthy throuple, and could that be the best thing for all of them? Kris, I'm going to you first on this one.
I wish the audience at home could see the pensive look on my face as I truly wrestle with this very serious and consequential question. Because it obviously Wayne and JD have a wonderful comedy dynamic. They have a little bit of an odd couple thing. Wayne is always kind of getting frustrated at JD. But they're not the same without Darren to kind of balance them out as a trio. There's a part of me that's afraid that Wayne and Darren are so, or maybe that Wayne is so obsessed with Darren that long term JD is a third wheel. When Wayne's going to give away his house in exchange for Darren, he's also going to throw in JD. He doesn't look like much, but he's hung like a horse, and so that concerns me a little bit. But I think ultimately I'm going to go throuple here, that if they stand a chance at all, it's all three of them together. There's a balance there. There's the lifelong dynamics. Yeah, all three together. Throuple.
What do you think, Owen?
I don't like Wayne and JD's relationship. Like I said earlier about him asking if he can get dinner, that seems to be too dominant of a situation. And I think JD and Darren together would just be completely directionless. So I think Wayne, he's going to dominate no matter what, but I think it would probably take JD and Darren uniting against him to be able to create some balance. I don't think Darren or JD could do it on their own. So I agree. It's the throuple, and it's because they need Wayne. Like he's got to be in the mix, but if he's too dominant, he's the one thinking, let's kidnap and kill this woman. So he needs some kind of checks and balances,
You guys are so smart. I think you converted me. But I will say my first instinct was Wayne and JD was the one I wanted to root for, but I think you might have converted me. Great stuff. This is an open question. You don't have to answer, but can either of you pitch me a great throuple from amongst the characters in this film? Is there a great throuple out there?
Okay. I have one for me that is I don't know if they're a great thruple. It's more of a vendetta thruple for me.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Well, there's something that they're doing in the movie to try and illustrate how gullible Darren is. And it's surrounding him with these like just unnecessarily mean people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to take the student who lures him over in the cafeteria in school, only so he could be tripped and embarrassed. Whoever she grows up to be is going to be in a throuple with the mime and his girlfriend.
Okay.
Because so unnecessarily mean. The girlfriend stands there the whole performance. Maybe she's making eyes at Darren. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's just into the music. But the performance ends. She lingers at the keyboard. The crowd has dispersed. They have wrapped up, and she has stayed to talk to him. She has stayed only long enough for him to proposition her for a drink, maybe. So then she can tell him that she's involved with a real performer. And the mime shittily reels her in with a lasso. Why? Why did you do that to him? So whoever these mean, vindictive people are, they need to find each other and work it out in the bedroom. So take the mime, his current girlfriend, the grown-up version of the mean student, stick them in a room together and let them figure it out.
Wow. I love that.
Do you have a throuple for me, Owen?
What I think could potentially work would be Sandy, Darren with a JD kicker. Because I think that Darren, he's kind of down for whatever. And JD seems to be willing to explore himself. So he's got a benefit there. And I think Sandy is interested in pleasing Darren as well, which he hadn't experienced. So I think there's an avenue for all of them to like get what they need. So I could see the three of them maybe working out.
I love it.
Love that.
I'm gonna take inspiration from both of you. I kind of feel bad for Darren Silverman himself, but I have a hard time really liking him or connecting with him too much in this film. Like, it's not like I want him to be miserable or anything. He doesn't do anything terrible to deserve any sort of pain or suffering. Who has not lost themselves in a relationship and allowed their connections to their friends to hurt? It's relatable human stuff, and we've all been there. But there's something about the way he lets himself be taken in and the way he feels this easy ownership almost of Sandy that doesn't sit quite right with me. And perhaps I should project that onto her. But, this whole circus background, she just feels so innocent to me. But I was thinking, I love the idea of a throuple. I'm stealing part of Owen's. We've got Sandy. We've got JD. I realize that, they are not leading the same lifestyle, but we've got to consider emotional needs as well as sexual needs. But I've got a dark horse candidate, someone I don't know too much about, but someone I really liked in the movie, who I think might just bring that something special. And it is going to be the replacement for Darren and the Diamonds in the Rough, because they treated that guy like garbage.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of thought he was killing it in the performance, and he seemed like a cool dude.
Giving it
I'm
all.
like, let's put him in there and see what happens. I could see him finding some chemistry with JD. I mean, I don't know exactly who he is, but I don't know. There was something there that I liked.
Yeah, he was an intriguing fellow.
So much energy. The wig looked great on him, unless that was his own flow. So much energy. I agree. That's a great pull. Nice cut.
All right, Kris, bring us home with our favorite question.
Yeah, this is the one I have a definitive answer to tonight, and I don't always. When we like to talk about merch on this pod, if you could bring home and own one prop, one souvenir, one bit of merch from this movie, what would it be and why?
I mean, we did already talk about it, but and I don't even know if they actually show it, but it would be the lug nut. I would just keep that somewhere, like on my desk, and every time I looked at it, like a baby looking at keys, I would just laugh.
Yes.
I would just be like, and think of everything that's broken, and every time I said fixed it, was the lug nut.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Great
man.
pull. I did not see that coming at all, but I love it.
No, that's so good.
Chris, you said you had a definitive one, so why don't you go next? Because I've got two I feel almost equally good about.
I do have a definitive one, and it's for similar reasons to Owen, is I want to be able to just drop the quote in real life as often as possible. So I want either from the set, the one they used, or a recreation of the photo of the house in that frame with Wayne being dropped on his head.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it'd be on my wall. People would look at it, wonder, whose house is that? That's an old picture. What's going on here? And I would treat it like it was my own. I would say, there's me and my dad. You can see my dad is dropping me on my head. I can't get enough. So, yeah. And maybe all the guys could sign the back of it for me.
You know, I'm not really a big car guy. Like, I'm more interested in getting from A to B than I am in like the machine or working on the machine. You know, I think it's a great thing for people to be into. It's never been me. But if I suddenly had disposable income in a garage, I might fill it with just interesting film and television vehicles. So I would like the Cowboy Wayne Pest Posse and Rodent Wrangler truck. I thought that was pretty awesome. I know I teased Wayne for his affectations and his cowboy hat, but that was a pretty fun prop. So that's the one for me.
I love that. I thought you were going to say the smashed car from the tableau.
Oh,
that'd be a good one too. Grab that.
That's also good. I thought he was going to say Darren's Vespa.
Oh yeah, there's
a few vehicles.
Good vehicle.
Nope, it's the van. It's the van for me. All right. Believe it or not, that brings us to the end of the discussion. We may be a fledgling podcast, but I do not believe that there is a podcast out there in the land that's given Saving Silverman the treatment that we just gave it. So I think we should be very proud of ourselves. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to send this to every actor who was in the film and just let them know, like, hey, we really love this movie from 2001 in case you haven't heard about it in a while.
Hey, buddy, we care. All right.
Yeah. Jason Biggs, I'm sorry we didn't have more to say about you, but, you know, in 2001, there was a certain archetype they were asking you to play, and that archetype did not usually demand a lot of dimension from you. And it's not your fault. I know that you are lovely. I know that my cousin was once vacation cruise ship friends with your sister.
You waited till now to tell us that? Wow.
I mean, if we really break down that connection, it gets less and less impressive the more you think about it. But, but yeah, no offense against you. You know, I noticed that you got to star in a television show with my beloved Maggie Lawson from Psych. So say hi to her for me as well. Before we sign out, I just want to give people a chance to share any social media that they want to share with the folks out there if you want to be found, or if you have any other work or things you want people to take a look at. So, Owen, is there any place you'd like people to find you or anything you want them to see out there?
There is not. I don't really do social media.
Stay tuned for the day that Owen lets us use one of his unreleased tracks for a new theme song. And we'll let you know. Kris, where can the people find you?
First and foremost, Owen, thank you so much, man, for joining us here tonight to do this episode of Media Lit. Thank you for signing us this homework. I mean, this movie means a lot to us and our relationship. We've shared these quotes endlessly, but I'm so grateful now that the three of us got to have this conversation and share the laughs that we shared tonight, man. Just great to hang with you as always.
So good to see you, buddy. As always.
Owen. Sorry, I was just going to say, Owen, it was really a pleasure to get to meet you, and I hope you'll be back soon. Let me know your favorite Flight of the Conchords episode, and I'm all in.
Oh my God, absolutely. Yep. I will let you know. It's going to be tough. I'm going to agonize over that. But yeah, I'd love to come back. And this was amazing. Thank you both for inviting me on. I love the passion. I love the analysis, and I love Kris deeply. And so anything he asked me to do, I'm going to be there. So Thank you both. And this was fun for me too. Like I said, I was so happy when I sat down and looked at this and was like, yeah, there is. Let's sink our teeth in. Like it's actually
My man.
Mhm.
So yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Well, if folks do care to find me on socials, I'm an actor and a voice actor. I co-host the Media Lit podcast with my dear friend Randy. I will begin a stint co-hosting the Batman by the Numbers podcast very shortly for the Pop Break feed. You can find me doing those kinds of things on Instagram, where I'm also a dad and a husband. I'm at Kris_Ingersoll. That's Kris spelled like Kringle. And if you podlings want to follow Media Lit, we're also on Instagram. We're at media.lit.pod. Give us your suggestions for an episode. Critique us on all the things that we got wrong about Saving Silverman. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you're like me and you turn into a 90-year-old man when you try to use Instagram, you can also find us over at Twitter at MediaLitPod. Or hey, if you're even more of a dinosaur like me who just turned 40, drop us a good old-fashioned email at media.slash.lit@gmail.com. Let us know something you'd love to see. Let us know what we got right or wrong in the Do You Ship It segment or whatever else is on your mind. We'd be happy to hear from you. As for me, I am Randy Allain. You can find me on Twitter at Mr_Allain, ALLAIN. You can find links to Media Lit stuff. You can find links to all the writing that I do over at the Pop Break. Lots of Bluey and lots of Doctor Who, but I pop in for some other fun stuff as well, so be on the lookout for that. It's almost time for the 1-year anniversary of my breakdown of why Muppet Family Christmas is the greatest television special. So take a look for that one. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you soon.